Hello and welcome to another video from the only channel that you need to not only survive the current apocalypse but actually enjoy it. And today's video is going to be called Written in Stone. Any time in the past that the creator of the universe thought something was important enough to tell us, he would write it down on what at the time was the equivalent of paper. And hence today we have a Bible, which actually is written on paper. But writing something on paper doesn't have very much meaning unless there's something to support that. You see, civilization has their entire infrastructure on paper, but they have nothing to support it. So there's a difference between what God writes here and what some oligarch somewhere writes on a piece of paper. And we're going to talk about that right now. When I say written in stone, probably the first thing that comes to mind is the Ten Commandments, or what is popularly known as the Ten Commandments. And yes, that's a good example. But we're going to talk about something much more profound than that. And this video is going to actually be an indictment against the religions of the world. So pay close attention. And I've told you in the past that I refuse to make a video that somebody else has already made. That's pointless. I'm here to communicate things to you that you don't know. So if somebody else had this video, I wouldn't make it. But I've also told you that I will not make a video. I'm not going to stop my day, waste my time to make a video unless it's something extremely important. And in fact, I've said, unless it has not been revealed to man for 2,000 years. And the reason I say that is because this video is going to start out sounding like church talk. I assure you, it is not. This video is going to tell you about something that the churches have kept well hidden from you for 2,700 years. They don't want you to know this. They're doing everything in their power to stop you from knowing this. So please watch this video to the end. When I talk about something being written in stone, a good example of that is what's written in the Bible in the book of Genesis, and in fact is recorded all the way through the Bible to the book of Revelation. The very, very beginning, when Adam decided to stop being obedient to natural law, God told him, if you continue on this course, you're going to curse the earth. Now, the way that's presented to us by the churches is that as punishment for eating a piece of fruit, God cursed the earth just to make Adam sorry. That's not the way the original Hebrew is presented. And in fact, later on, when Cain decides that he's going to start building cities and engaging in agriculture, he says the same thing about Cain. He says, on Cain's account, the earth is cursed. And yet, the churches teach us that it was actually God that cursed the earth as punishment for what Cain did. It's not at all true. Throughout the Bible, we are shown in every book what damage man has done to the earth, to the planet, to the animals, to the trees, and to one another. When you get to the final book of Revelation, when it's time to straighten all that out, God says in no uncertain terms, I am bringing to ruin those who are ruining my earth. And then he explains how he's going to do it. So, what do the Christian churches teach about this? And this is just the proof that's in the pudding. If you take every single person that professes to be a Jew or a Christian to a museum, and you show them the thousands of fossil specimens of extinct species of animals that we have brought to ruin, and ask them why those animals no longer exist, 99, if not 100%, will tell you it was caused by natural selection. Even though in our modern times we have seen human beings destroy thousands of species with not one single example of natural selection destroying even one. So that's an indictment against the religions of the world. Now, if you're in a church where everybody is pretty much in agreement that human beings have done this and that natural selection is a lie, that's good, but there's more. The Bible, a little later on, tells us that after man did so much damage to the earth and it looked like he wasn't going to stop, that he brought a flood to put a stop to what they were doing. And yet, if you take every man of every Christian and every Jewish religion on the planet out to the Grand Canyon and ask them how that got there, 99, if not 100%, will tell you it was done by an ice age. Now, the scientists that explain this to us are also the same scientists that discovered several very important principles in the laws of physics. One is called the first law of thermodynamics, and the other is called the law of conservation of matter and energy. Yet these same people expect us to believe in an ice age that has to break both of those laws, and the vast majority of Christendom and Judaism buy into this story. If you're in a church or a temple where even one member thinks that the Grand Canyon got there by the Ice Age, your congregation needs to address that. All right, now we're going to tell you about another thing that's written in stone. Written in stone. And I'm going to read a scripture that has been twisted and changed so that you can't figure it out. And I say I don't usually quote Bibles, but I'm going to quote this one directly. In Daniel chapter 2 and verse 21. Very, very specific. And he is changing times and seasons, removing kings and setting up kings, giving wisdom to the wise ones and knowledge to those showing or knowing discernment. Now, what does that scripture really say? And you're going to have to do a little research, and it's not much. You can go to the online concordance. That's Daniel chapter 2, verse 21. And type in years. When it gives you all the scriptures that say years, go to, or not years, times. When it gives you all those scriptures, go to that particular scripture in Daniel and click on the word times. You will find that word is not times, and the other word isn't seasons. What the scripture actually says is God is changing years and months. He is removing kings and replacing kings so that you can have wisdom and knowledge. Think about that. He's changing years and months. Very profound statement. Well, what does that mean? When the Jewish people were led into the Promised Land, they were stopped. And the thing that we call the Ten Commandments, which was really the 10 words, was initially existed in a box called the Ark of the Covenant. But a better name for the box is the container for the written agreement. These people made an agreement with God that they would follow His commandments. And He had some very specific commandments put in place. These things that He did were called festivals and rituals. And in the agreement, the written agreement, it specifically said that each of these rituals had to be observed by the entire nation. These rituals were reenactments of historic events in Bible history. And if you look at that, no matter how you look at it, it says things such as on the 3rd day of the 4th month, or things similar to that. And it says you had to perform a certain ritual. But also within that law, it told them when they were to harvest crops and when they were to plant crops. And it always referred to months and days. And there's a reason for that. At that time, the Jewish people were using a 360-day calendar with 12 30-day months. And it was designed so that the new moon of the first month always fell on the solar solstice. Always. That's recorded in the Bible that they had a 360-day year with 12 30-day months. People are going to question this, but the fact is, we don't have a 360-day year. We have a 365.25-day year with 29.5-day months. If we want to know what date it is, we can't simply walk out, look up at the moon and say, well, it's the 3rd moon and looks like about the 5th day. We can't do that. because we don't have a lunar calendar anymore. I'm going to show you where that's at in the book, just so you can see this. Everything from here to here is based on a 360-day calendar. Everything from here to here is based on the Babylonian calendar, which is 365 days, until you get to right here, Revelation. At this point in the Bible, the calendar reverts back to a 360-day, 30-day month, 12-month calendar. Now, how did he write this in stone? That's a very important thing. It's in paper. That would be meaningless because the empire can produce paper. Paper about lies. But Jehovah God made sure to write this in stone. Around the world, in museums, are thousands upon thousands of stone artifacts, records of empires, payments, executions, judicial decisions, and there are a whole lot of stone tablets which record planting habits of civilizations around the world. Interestingly enough, every culture on the earth claimed to have a 360-day calendar at one time, and that they depended on the 360-day calendar for planting and harvesting their crops. Yet if you bring a Christian to such a museum and ask them why that is, 99, if not 100%, will tell you that primitive man did not have the means to measure days and years. So what we're supposed to believe is that thousands of agrarian societies around the earth planted their crops according to the new moon of a certain month, and they never picked up on the fact that sometimes they were planting in the middle of summer and sometimes they were planting in the middle of a blizzard. This is an indictment against the religions of the world. Almost everyone who studies ancient cultures agrees that every culture on the planet about 2,700 years ago altered their 360-day calendar and instituted a 365-day calendar. Now, I told you before, we're going to take this, my channel is going to give you one piece of the puzzle every now and then, and eventually we're going to put the puzzle together. I'm not going to give you the next piece for a little while, and the reason being, if this video is giving you goosebumps, the next one is going to shake you up even worse. I am painfully aware that the vast majority of people watching this are either claim to be Christian, they claim to be Jewish, or they claim to be some kind of a mixture of the two. The reason that God made the calendar go from 360 days to 365 days is more earth-shattering than the fact that He did it. If you're in a church that has not explained the change of the calendar to you, you are in a satanic, ritualistic, perverted form of worship. You need to get out. This information is vital to you. Right now, you may not understand how vital it is to you, but I promise you, without this clue, without this understanding of what has happened to the calendar, there is not one word in this book that can ever be forced to make sense. Every prophecy in the Bible depends on you understanding how the calendar works, or the prophecies are meaningless. But now that you have this key, every prophecy in the Bible can be understood quite simply. I promise you. If you don't want to survive, don't listen to me.